What's going on YouTube? Listen up, young elder gang. This is Dr. Vince O'Connor, Sarah's little brother at You with Another Banger. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video, fam. I hope this video get at least 100,000 likes. In this video, you will find history, definitions, scripture, information, and best of all, what we Americans have been deprived of from the beginning, the truth. Keep in mind, this content used in this video is intended for educational and informational purposes only. We will give you the total truth, as we best understand it today. Be sure to hit that like button, young elder gang. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Hit that bell and don't forget to check back with us every day for new content. All right, let's get started. Today we're going to talk about some of the stories surrounding San Francisco's Bohemian Club. The membership roles of this exclusive men-only social club include U.S. presidents, doctors, lawyers, captains of industry, banking, military contractors, giants in the arts and sciences, and the absurdly wealthy. The Bohemian Grove is a restricted 700-acre, 1,100-hectare campground in Monte Rio, California. Founded in 1878, it belongs to a private gentlemen's club known as the Bohemian Club. In mid-July each year, the Bohemian Grove hosts a more than 2-week encampment of some of the most prominent men in the world. The Bohemians are automatically the subject of charges by some that they are a secret guild of Illuminati, making the decisions that rule the world, manipulating interest rates, and choosing political candidates. The Bohemian Grove, where they are said to participate in some Illuminati-like behavior, up to and including mock human sacrifice to the pagan god Moloch. The bare facts are that the Bohemian Club was founded in San Francisco after the gold rush by some of the social elite in the city's arts community. The California Gold Rush, 1848-1855, also known as the 49 ERs, began on January 24, 1848, when gold was found by James W. Marshall at Sutter's Mill in Coloma, California. The news of gold brought approximately 300,000 people to California from the rest of the United States and abroad. So many went west that the term 49 ERs was applied not only to those who arrived that year, but also to those who followed. Between 1848 and 1855, more than 300,000 people moved to California in search of gold. Now, you see the connection with the 49 ERs football team. The promise of wealth attracted people from all over the United States and from other countries. More than 300,000 people moved to California between 1848 and 1855. The rush transformed California into the Golden State. The Bohemian Club hoped to accomplish their goals by mixing wealthy patrons with artistic luminaries. They ensured that the arts would continue to flourish while providing patrons and enthusiasts with the ultimate hobnobbing experience. Their motto, "Weaving spiders come not here," taken from Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, and meaning that no business is to be transacted at the club, was cast in bronze and is prominently displayed on their 6-story building. The tradition of a summer encampment was established 6 years after the Bohemian Club was formed in 1872. Henry "Harry" Edwards, a stage actor and founding member, announced that he was relocating to New York City to further his career. On June 29, 1878, somewhat fewer than 100 Bohemians gathered in the Redwoods in Marin County near Taylorville, present-day Samuel P. Taylor State Park, for an evening send-off party in Edwards's honor. Freely flowing liquor and some Japanese lanterns put a glow on the festivities, and club members retired at a late hour to the modest comfort of blankets laid on the dense mat of redwood needles. This festive gathering was repeated the next year without Edwards, and became the club's yearly encampment. Encampment is a group of tents or temporary shelters put in one place. Many people are living in encampments around the city with no electricity or running water. Compare bivouac noun, camp noun, tents, buildings. Once a year, Bohemian Club members, often called bohos, retire to the Bohemian Grove, their 2,700-acre retreat in the redwoods of Sonoma County, north of San Francisco, for 16 days, separated into fraternity-style camps. It is at this annual encampment that their most controversial activities are said to take place. Everything from bizarre pagan and homosexual rituals to plans for global domination. Global domination is the idea of a single power or ideology controlling the world. It can also refer to a situation where a person or thing is the most powerful or important, a political authority with power over most or all of the world's population, a designer opening stores in many countries around the world, a country's dominance over global supply chains. By 1882, the members of the club camped together at various locations in both Marin and Sonoma counties, including the present-day Muir Woods and a redwood grove that once stood near Duncan's Mills, several miles down the Russian River from the current location. The Sonoma County Airport fills with a staggering collection of corporate and military business jets. Grove security is said to be exceptionally tight. The Sonoma County Free Press maintains the Bohemian Grove Action Network to organize round-the-clock protests during the camp. From 1893, Bohemians rented the current location, and in 1899 purchased it from Melvin Cyrus Meekert, who had developed a successful logging operation in the area. Gradually, over the next decades, members of the club purchased land surrounding the original location, expanding it to the perimeter of the basin in which it resides. It turns out that the most of all the conspiracy story often told about the Bohemians is actually true. That the Manhattan Project was planned there to develop the first atomic weapons. Not long after the club's establishment by newspaper journalists, it was commandeered by prominent San Francisco-based businessmen who provided the financial resources necessary to acquire further land and facilities at the Grove. However, they still retained the Bohemians, the artists and musicians, who continued to entertain international members and guests. The Grove is particularly famous for a Manhattan Project planning meeting that took place there in September 1942, which subsequently led to the atomic bomb. Those attending this meeting included Ernest Lawrence, J. Robert Oppenheimer, the S1 executive committee heads, such as the presidents of Harvard, Yale, and Princeton, along with representatives of Standard Oil and General Electric, as well as various military officials. At the time, Oppenheimer was not an S1 member, although Lawrence and Oppenheimer hosted the meeting. Grove members take particular pride in this event and often relate the story to new attendees. Former U.S. President Herbert Hoover was inducted into the Old Guard on March 4, 1953. He had joined the club exactly 40 years prior, which is the requirement for the status. Redwood branches from the Grove were flown to the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City, where they were used to decorate a banquet room for the celebration. In his acceptance speech, Hoover compared the honor of the Old Guard status to his frequent role as veteran counselor to later presidents. Other behavior at the campground has led to numerous claims and even some parody in popular culture. One example was President Richard Nixon's comments from a May 13, 1971, tape recording talking about upper-class San Franciscans. The Bohemian Grove, which I attend from time to time, it is the most faggy goddamn thing you could ever imagine with that San Francisco crowd. The Bohemian Grove camp is dominated by such theatrical attractions. Each year ends with what they call the High Jinks, an original play written each year for the occasion and performed by a cast of hundreds, and said to be usually quite good and magnificently performed with six-figure budgets. Throughout the camp, so-called low jinks are also performed, which can get pretty lowbrow and are the source of the stories about bohos dressed in drag. So what about this mock human sacrifice to the pagan god Moloch? Moloch was a pagan deity to whom child sacrifice was offered at the Jerusalem Tophet. Some modern scholars have proposed that Moloch may be the same god as Milcom, Adad Milki, or an epithet for Baal, who is Enlil's son, not to be mistaken with Marduk, who had the title of Bel, which mean Lord or Yahweh. Moloch, also spelled Molech, is the Hebrew word for king, and was mentioned in the Bible as a Canaanite god, Baal, who required child sacrifices. There's really no classical references in which Moloch or Baal is depicted as an owl. Rather, he has a human body with the head of a bull or goat. I think they are confusing themselves. The owl represents Tahuti, not Adad, Baal, which is his little cousin and student. It's well documented from reporters and others who have snuck in and photographed the ceremony, which takes place on the first day of the 16-day camp. A 50-minute dramatic play accompanied by a full orchestra with huge production value. Climaxes with figures cloaked in robes burning a coffin on a sacrificial altar before a huge cement owl. Sounds pretty strange to me. This is what our U.S. presidents are doing when they visit the Redwoods? The Bohemian owl refers to the owl mascot of the Bohemian Club, symbolizing wisdom and secrecy, as owls are often associated with knowledge and the ability to see in the dark, reflecting the club's private nature and powerful members who gather at their secluded Bohemian Grove retreat. In America, retreats are held by just about every group you can think of: scouts, ministers, students, athletes, musicians, and even cheerleaders. So it is not surprising that members of the social upper class would also have clubs that sponsor such occasions. The owl is the official symbol of the Bohemian Club, a prestigious men's social club known for its secretive gatherings at the Bohemian Grove. The owl is chosen as a symbol of wisdom, which aligns with the club's self-perception of intellectual and influential members. At the Bohemian Grove, a large concrete owl statue is a central feature of the Cremation of Care ceremony, where members symbolically burn an effigy representing worldly worries. The Bohemians call this the Cremation of Care ceremony, and the name of the antagonist in the coffin is Dull Care. It turns out the term dull care comes from a 1919 Oliver Hardy short film of that title, in which the police force is more interested in being lazy than in chasing bad guys. They leave the dull cares of their day behind them and enjoy their freedom. The bohos thus kick off their encampment by metaphorically throwing their cares of the day onto the sacrificial pyre. The theatrics of the robes and the ceremony are certainly consistent with the dramatic theme of the camp. The giant owl merely represents knowledge, and it's been the club's symbol since its inception. Not long after the club's establishment by newspaper journalists, it was commandeered by prominent San Francisco-based businessmen who provided the financial resources necessary to acquire further land and facilities at the Grove. However, they still retained the Bohemians, the artists and musicians, who continued to entertain international members and guests. The Grove is particularly famous for a Manhattan Project planning meeting that took place there in September 1942, which subsequently led to the atomic bomb. Those attending this meeting included Ernest Lawrence, J. Robert Oppenheimer, the S1 Executive Committee heads, such as the presidents of Harvard, Yale, and Princeton, along with representatives of Standard Oil and General Electric, as well as various military officials. At the time, Oppenheimer was not an S1 member, although Lawrence and Oppenheimer hosted the meeting. Grove members take particular pride in this event, and often relate the story to new attendees. Former U.S. President Herbert Hoover was inducted into the Old Guard on March 4, 1953. He had joined the club exactly 40 years prior, which is the requirement for the status. Redwood branches from the Grove were flown to the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City, where they were used to decorate a banquet room for the celebration. In his acceptance speech, Hoover compared the honor of the Old Guard status to his frequent role as veteran counselor to later presidents. Other behavior at the campground has led to numerous claims and even some parody in popular culture. One example was President Richard Nixon's comments from a May 13, 1971, tape recording talking about upper-class San Franciscans. The Bohemian Grove, which I attend from time to time, it is the most faggy goddamn thing you could ever imagine with that San Francisco crowd. In 2019, the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors informed the club that after that year, the county would no longer provide law enforcement security. Bohemian Grove side entrance to the Bohemian Grove. The Bohemian Grove is protected by a sophisticated security team year-round. The Bohemian Club employs ex-military personnel to help secure the area. They use high-end security equipment, including thermal night vision cameras, motion detectors, and vibration sensing alarm systems. The level of security is particularly heightened during the time periods that members are on site. During these times, the local sheriff's office, California Highway Patrol, and, if warranted by the guest list, the United States Secret Service help to secure the areas and roads surrounding the encampment. Despite the high levels of security always present, there have been numerous high-profile successful infiltrations of the Bohemian Grove. In the summer of 1980, Rick Kloger gained entrance to the Grove with the help of an employee and posed as a worker during 2 weekends of the annual encampment. His efforts, the first magazine reporting from inside the Grove, were published in the August 1981 issue of Mother Jones. Around the same time, ABC Evening News aired a special report on the Bohemian Grove. In the summer of 1989, Spy magazine writer Philip Weiss spent 7 days in the camp posing as a guest, which led to his November 1989 article, Inside the Bohemian Grove. He was eventually discovered and arrested for trespassing. On July 15, 2000, Alex Jones and his cameraman Mike Hansen clandestinely entered the Bohemian Grove and shot footage of the Cremation of Care ceremony. Jones claimed it was a ritual sacrifice. From this footage, documentary filmmaker John Ronson produced the episode The Satanic Shadowy Elite. in which he characterizes the proceedings as an overgrown frat party, while Jones produced dark secrets inside Bohemian Grove, describing what he said were satanic rituals. On January 19, 2002, 37-year-old Richard McCaslin was arrested after his nighttime infiltration of the Bohemian Grove, where he set several fires. He was heavily armed and wearing a skull mask and outfit with "Phantom Patriot" written across the chest. The Bohemian Club is a private club. Only active members and their guests may visit. Guests have been known to include politicians and notable figures from other countries. Particularly during the midsummer encampment, the number of guests is strictly limited due to the small size of the facilities. The Bohemian Club's all-male membership includes artists and musicians, as well as many prominent business leaders, government officials, former U.S. presidents, senior media executives, and people of power. Members may invite guests to the Grove. Guests may be invited to the Grove for either the Spring Jinx in June or the main July encampment. Bohemian Club members can schedule private day use events at the Grove anytime it is not being used for club-wide purposes, and they are allowed at these times to bring spouses, family, and friends, although female and minor guests must be off the property by 9 or 10 p.m. After 40 years of membership, the men earn Old Guard status, giving them reserved seating at the Grove's daily talks, as well as other perks. The club motto is, "Weaving spiders come not here," which implies that outside concerns and business deals, networking, are to be left outside. When gathered in groups, Bohemians usually adhere to the injunction, although discussion of business often occurs between pairs of members. Important political and business deals have been developed at the Grove. A Bohemian tent in the 1900s, sheltering Porter Garnett, George Sterling, and Jack London. The main encampment area consists of 160 acres, 65 ha, of old-growth redwood trees over 1,000 years old, some over 300 feet, 91 m tall. Sleeping quarters, or camps, are also scattered throughout the Grove. There were 118 as of 2007. These camps, which are frequently patrilineal, are the principal means through which high-level business and political contacts and friendships are formed. The preeminent camps are Hillbillies, Mandalay, Caveman, Stowaway, Uplifters, Owl's Nest, Hideaway, Isle of Aves, Lost Angels, Silverado Squatters, Sempervirens, Hillside, Idlewild, aerial image of Bohemian Grove buildings, aerial image of Bohemian Grove buildings. The Grove features the following gathering places: Grove Stage, an amphitheater with seating for 2,000, used primarily for the Grove play production, on the last weekend of the midsummer encampment. The stage extends up the hillside. Field Circle, a bowl-shaped amphitheater used for the mid-encampment Low Jinks musical comedy, for Spring Jinks in early June, and for a variety of other performances. Campfire Circle has a campfire pit in the center of the circle, surrounded by carved redwood log benches, used for smaller performances in a more intimate setting. Museum Stage, a semi-outdoor venue with a covered stage, lectures and small ensemble performances. Dining Circle, seating approximately 1,500 diners simultaneously. Clubhouse, designed by Bernard Maybeck in 1903, completed in 1904 on a bluff overlooking the Russian River. A multi-purpose dining, drinking, and entertainment building, the site of the Manhattan Project planning meeting held in 1942. The Owl Shrine, and the lake and artificial lake in the interior of the Grove, used for the noontime concerts and also the venue of the Cremation of Care, which takes place on the first Saturday of the encampment. It is also the location of the 12:30 p.m. daily lakeside talks. These significant informal talks, many on public policy issues, have been given over the years by entertainers, professors, astronauts, business leaders, cabinet officers, Central Intelligence Agency directors, future presidents, and former presidents. Camp valets are responsible for the operation of the individual camps. The head valets are akin to general managers at a resort, club, restaurant, or hotel. Service staff include female workers whose presence at the Grove is limited to daylight hours and central areas close to the main gate. Male workers may be housed at the Grove within the boundaries of the camp to which they are assigned or in peripheral service areas. High-status workers stay in small private quarters, but most are housed in rustic bunkhouses.